now thinking about it, I'm like, that guy has to be forgiven. Like, he clearly has deep remorse for what he's done. And he's also clearly living in a world where he was given nothing but adulation and praise for most of his life.
Even though it has been almost a year since the whole Will Smith slapping Chris Rock drama, it seems like the world is still not over it. In fact, Will continues to talk about his experience and what made him do it. Not to mention, the man has also faced his fair share of consequences. Now, another famous personality has spoken about it. So, Joe Rogan thinks that the world needs to get over it. Today, let's find out more about what he said. But before we continue, please give it a like and hit the subscribe button. It really helps me grow the channel so I can bring you the hottest tea every week. Now, we all know how chaotic the slap looked on screen, but believe us when we say that Smith's life has been even crazier since it happened. So, first off, he was banned from the Oscars for 10 years. Then came the potential cancellation of Bad Boys 4 and Netflix's Fast and Loose. These are just two examples of the concrete repercussions that might result from Smith's actions, along with the risk that his action could delay Hollywood's efforts to increase diversity. His loved ones were also impacted. At the same time, Smith's reputation and brand took the worst hit. The fight was a nightmare for everyone, a family friend told Us Magazine. The publication's source also said, and there's a part of him that's grown to believe he'll never be able to entirely heal the harm that was created. Back then, it looked like Smith's path to forgiveness would be hard, but it looks like people are already loosening up. Now, before we get into the apology lecture, y'all must remember how Joe Rogan went on a podcast and had a full-blown rant where he condemned Will's actions and even went on to talk about how his actions would set a bad precedent for comedians and live performers. And when we say he had a rant, we really mean it. After all, if Joe Rogan is one thing, it's vocal about his opinions. So when he had an entire podcast dedicated to hating on Will Smith, it came as quite a surprise to us and to many of his fans out there when he decided to shift his perspective completely. Now, if you don't know what we're talking about, let us run you by it. Joe Rogan has previously commented on Will Smith hitting Chris Rock at the Oscars, claiming that Smith's actions established a bad precedent for comedy clubs. In an episode of his podcast featuring the martial artist Josh Barnett, controversial media personality and comedian Joe Rogan called Rock's statement before the slap a light joke. When Jada Pinkett Smith revealed that she had shaved her head because she suffers from alopecia, Rock made a joke about it. So, according to him,
first of all, that whole scene doing that in that manner, in that place, is a great example of what's wrong with the glorification of just being able to go up to someone and smack them in the face.
Rogan noted at the beginning of the podcast footage above.
Rock's doing his job. There's a professional comedian whose job is to roast people. That's what he's doing. And what he did was not even insulting.
It's not about...
It was a mild joke. Emotionally
moment,
fragile.
Probably.
And he acted on impulse.
Sure.
And I think it's a foolish impulse that you do when you know there's no consequences.
But
like
I'm
the idea
simply
that there's
saying
any justification whatsoever of him getting up there and smacking him in the face like that.
The presenter also mentioned how uncomfortable the situation must have been for audience members.
Everybody's just going to sit there in the that you just took on the table. You just pulled your pants down and took a on the dinner table, and they all have just sit there and look at that. That's what it's like. It's just the whole idea behind it is completely irrational.
According to Rogan, Will Smith should have been immediately disqualified from the award show following the slap with his acceptance speech.
You can't just go smack a man in the face in front of the world and then go about business as usual. First of all, it sets a terrible precedent.
Yes.
In so many different ways. It sets a terrible precedent for comedy clubs.
Yes.
Like, are people going to decide that they're going to go on stage and smack the comedian now?
And it's not like we disagree with him. The man did raise a strong point. After all, we all agree that Will Smith shouldn't have slapped Chris like that. But watching Rogan shift his entire stance like that was surprising, to say the least. Some people even thought that because Joe is often found in questionable situations, he tends to go easy on the people who have done wrong just so when the time changes and it's he who is under the backlash for stupid stuff, he will be forgiven or at least given some sympathy. Wow. kinda twisted, but if Joe's only supporting Will to avoid being a victim of the cancel culture himself, then the man is playing a long-term game, and we've got to give him 10 points for his dedication. However, Rogan didn't tell the world that he was doing this, obviously. Even while Rogan believes that few people will be motivated to alter their behavior as a result of the experience, he does believe that stupid people may. And that is why he condemned Will back then. In his podcast previously, he stated,
So it's like, what are we saying as a society when the people that we look up to, for whatever reason, for good or for bad, we look up to actors.
Yes.
And the Academy Awards is supposed to be them in their most regal outfits, their best behavior, and to drop down to violence for something so innocuous as a G.I. Jane joke.
Joe, bro, where did all that anger and anguish go? We just can't say for sure what Rogan's ulterior motives are, if there are any. But here's what he has to say for Will now. According to the Daily Wire, on a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, when discussing with actor Jon Bernthal, Rogan claimed,
He's a human. You gotta forgive him.
Rogan said that he formally agreed with the idea of permanently avoiding Smith, but now has changed his mind.
Now, thinking about him, like, that guy has to be forgiven. Like, he clearly has deep remorse for what he's done. And he's also clearly living in a world where he was given nothing but adulation and praise for most of his life. And then all of a sudden, he has this one, in many people's eyes, unforgivable moment where he does something just so stupid.
Rogan said that Smith isn't blind to the consequences of his behavior and that he seems to have real regret about the events of last year.
He's a human being. You just gotta forgive him. You know, and I think the real person who has to forgive him, if he wants to, is Chris Rock.
That's right.
According to Faithwire, Rock joked on stage at the Oscars about Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, who had a shaved head owing to the difficulties with alopecia, prompting the notorious attack. Rock yelled at Jada,
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it.
Pinkett Smith didn't seem thrilled by the subsequent laughter, and Will Smith promptly headed on stage to confront Rock. It was at that point that he smacked the comic and returned to a seat. After the event, numerous celebrities spoke out about their dismay at Smith's continued presence in the room and his subsequent win for Best Actor, for which he earned a standing ovation. Comedian Wanda Sykes stated after the slap,
For them to let him stay in that room and enjoy the rest of the show and accept his award, I was like, how gross is this? This is just the wrong message, you know? Like, you assault somebody, you get escorted out the building, and that's it.
In an interview with CBS Mornings in March, actor and comedian Jim Carrey referred to Hollywood as spineless, and Sykes' sentiments are similar. He, too, thought Smith ought to have been led away.
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore.
Smith, on the other hand, has expressed regret for the event several times over.
Yeah, that was a horrific night, as you can imagine.
Others also believe that he should be forgiven. Co-star Bai Ling of Wild Wild West has said that Will Smith's iconic slap at the Oscars is something that people had to forgive. People make mistakes, Ling said in a new interview with The Sun via Cinema Blend. The mistake he made was not good. It needs to be recognized and changed. When he comes back, he will be a much better person. He will have more power in humbleness and influence people. We have to forgive. We have all made mistakes. In addition, Floyd Mayweather, a boxer, reportedly checked in on Smith daily for 10 days following the Oscars last year. The actor of King Richard said Mayweather was one of his closest supporters after the event, at a private screening of his new film Emancipation at the London Hotel. And if you like this video, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see my next video. I post updates like this every week, where I uncover the secrets of your favorite celebrities.